I'd like to call to order this meeting with Mon County Board of Education, January 24th, 2023. And we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would love for the students to start us on the Pledge of Allegiance. Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It always sounds so much better when the students do it. We tend to butcher it. All right. I'm filling in for President Lytle. He's running a little bit late, so he'll probably be here in 20 or 25 minutes. We'll continue on. First order of business is we have recognition for the University High School boys cross country and girls cross country teams. So the board would like to recognize the University High School boys cross country team for bringing home the state championship for their 2022 season. University High girls placed runner-up for their 2022 season, bringing home a sweep in the state competition for the Monongalia County girls cross-country placements. Teams are coached by head coach Ed Fronapple and assistant coaches Joshua Robinson and Aaron Nichols. So we'll go ahead and do the plaques for those first. You want to hand some out?
Sure.
It's the boys cross-country. You want to do the boys first?
Sure.
The boys cross. Coaches with them. Yeah, all the guys do.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
This is for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
You want to just take a picture?
You're right there.
Oh, that's okay. I'm
Yeah, you stay in the picture.
I think you should all come up here and get some pictures.
You say that every time.
That was the boys' team.
Believe it or not, I'm camera shy.
Okay, next the girls team. Congratulations.
So who wants to hold this one?
Wait a minute, here we go. Our tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Somebody short in front of you. Somebody short in front of you. If you want a picture, you probably want to get in there. You want over there.
I didn't realize that was you.
Congratulations. Anybody have anything they want to say in relationship to?
Like on the boys' side, that was a fourth consecutive state championship in a row for the boys. The girls were kind of picked to be third or fourth overall, and they finished second. Actually, are tied through 5 runners, and then the tiebreaker was our picture holder, or frame holder, was Izzy. So we won the tiebreaker with number 6. I think our girls have been in the top 1 or 2 in the state since 2010.
Yeah. Wow.
So we've not been below second place, I don't think, since then. So
Well,
maybe
I
2014. 5 in a row. So the last 9 years it's been.
All right. Well, the county cleaned house this year.
You don't get to sit down.
Hang, go ahead. I want to,
Got my name on
I want to read this a little bit here. It's, the teams were coached, obviously by Ed Fronapple. I've read that part, but the board would also like to recognize and congratulate Coach Fronapple for being selected to U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association as a 22 Boys High School Cross Country Coach of the Year for the state of West Virginia. This award is sponsored by the United States Marine Corps, and I've known him for 50 years probably, and is very deserving. And I also noticed that our principal, Kim Green, is in the audience, so after Dan presents that, maybe Kim would like to say a few words, but go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I've known Ed for a long time. I had both of his sons at University High, taught at University High for a long time. And it's not surprising when we have the top programs in the state as hard as you work. When your sons were great runners as well, and you've done a lot to pass on. You did a great job. No, Brad, it's the truth. Very good, very good.
Great your day.
And so congratulations, thank you, well deserved.
Yes. Your screen's going to talk about you now, I'm sure.
I would like to thank Ed. He really has built our powerhouse of a cross-country program. He's built it in the community, in our schools. He, along with our parents, have built our cross-country track to make all of this possible. So I can't say enough good things about him. So thank you, Ed.
In 17 years, we have 15 state titles cross country does.
All right.
Boys and girls combined. So.
Yeah. Well, being an alumnus of University High, it always makes me proud when you guys are in front of us. So thank you for making me proud. Very good. All right. Oh boy. National School Counseling Week. We have a proclamation, so bear with me here, Tom. Did I get to read? These are These are always fun with the whereases. Yes, you can go.
You can run away quickly.
They've heard me speak
Most
before, so
everyone
they're
does.
leaving.
Go do your homework.
Thank you.
We like to think that that's what everybody's doing. It is.
Thank you.
Good job, Ed. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
So I said they've heard me speak before, that's why they left. Okay, National School Counseling Week. This proclamation is whereas school counselors are employed in public and private schools to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, their strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to the career awareness and development. Whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children. And whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and seek realistic goals for themselves. And whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society. And whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in school. Therefore, I, representing President Ron Lytle, do hereby proclaim February 6th through the 10th, 2023 as National School Counseling Week. So enough of that, huh? All right. And guys, let's see, delegations. We have no delegations, correct? Very good. Okay, reports, discussions, follow-up action, accounts payable addendum A. Superintendent?
Yes, this is accounts payable addendum A. We will ask Mr. Kelly to recuse himself for this particular vote. Superintendent recommends that the board approve accounts payable addendum A as presented in your executive content this evening.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda. Superintendent?
Thank you. Board members, the superintendent recommends that the consent agenda be approved this evening as presented to include items A, expenditures exceeding $3,000, item B, supplements and transfers, item C, the payment of salaries and accounts payable, item D is the WVRC Media and MTech Media Agreement, item E is the Head Start December 2022 monthly report, item F is the Early Head Start December 2022 monthly report. Item G are our student field experiences, and item H are the minutes.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Down to board updates. Anybody have any,
Mr. Kelly, if it would be appropriate, before you all give your updates, I would like to present the board this evening with a message from State Board of Education President Hardesty in celebration of National School Boards Month.
Hello, I'm West Virginia Board of Education President Paul Hardesty, and I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge our incredible county school boards across the Mountain State. They are full of hard-working people who are committed to serving the students, teachers, staff, and our school communities. Every day they provide opportunities for our children to learn, to grow, and to succeed. Even though there can be challenges, our school boards diligently strive to ensure students are safe, cared for, and fully supported. Because of the actions of our boards, children across the state are better prepared to pursue their goals, educators are further empowered to teach higher quality lessons, and staff members are in a better position to provide support for the school and the surrounding community. I want to encourage our county school boards to remain steadfast advocates of public education in West Virginia. You are the key figures laying the foundational groundwork for our students to prosper in the future. I sincerely thank each of you for all you do for the community and the state of West Virginia. Thank you.
And if I could ask it, well, I mean, we may need to wait because we want a picture of the 5 board members this evening for our own social media recognition of you. And I know Mr. Lytle's on his way. He should be here in 5 minutes or so, but maybe he'll be here by the time you guys are finished with your updates, or we can do it at another point in time before you all skedaddle this evening. But we'd love to have a picture of the 5 board members so that we can promote your participation in National School Board Month. So we'll do that when Mr. Lytle arrives.
Thank you. Anybody have any updates that they'd like to
Yeah, I
share?
was going to mention that last night at Morgantown High School, they had a special meeting for the parents of incoming freshmen who were interested in enrolling their students in advanced placement courses. And by my estimates, I think there were probably close to 40 parents that were there from South, Suncrest, and St. Francis.
Good
They
deal.
did a really nice job.
Yeah, very good.
I actually had to drop something off at Westwood Middle School today, so I was in the 6th grade classrooms and got to see actually the interventionists were they were in 2 different classrooms while I was there, but with the co-teach going on, and then the interventionist came in the middle and went straight to a student, and that student was comfortable with them, and the teacher told me that the interventionists are working so seamlessly with them in the 6th grade at least. It was nice to see that happening in action, and it didn't, like, the kids were very respondent to them, so it was awesome.
Nancy?
So I wanted to talk about 2 things. I thought this was the time to do it. And one of them was, we know the state senate has put forth a bill about having ECATs in the classrooms. And so I wanted to request that the superintendent or administrative team contact state senators to be sure we could still use interventionists the way we are now if they have a higher level of educational attainment than the ECATs. Because according to the current legislation, we would not be able to use our interventionists the same way. You know, they want instructors in the classrooms dedicated to those classrooms the whole time, are, if you will, retired teachers who like to be interventionists and have all the reading skills and the knowledge and the professional development that's necessary to be effective, would not be paid for or supported under the way this legislation is currently written. I understand the House is looking at doing something different, but some of the feedback has been you would still have to have the ECAT and then you can hire the interventionist, which would not be a model that would work for us here in Monongalia County the way we've used interventionists before this. Plus, I think it would be a challenge for us because in some schools and some classrooms, we have extra staff, and I think we might have to carry the full load of some of those salaries on our own. And then again, would we be able to hire the part-time interventionists who have been effective or working with a lot of our students? So I would just request that the superintendent talk to, you know, Senator Clemens was here, Senator Oliverio was here, if we could contact them, because I think if we have to wait to write a waiver every year and ask for different consideration, that will make it difficult for us to be able to staff effectively and continue the contracts of some of our interventionists that have been very effective in this work, just as you were discussing, and are accepted in those schools by those students, and it does not have a negative connotation to it to be working with an interventionist. So I would ask if the superintendent administrative team could contact our legislators and see what's going on with that. And then I would also like to request that we have a facilities update at our next meeting to talk about the work that's been done so far on the damages, and also how we're doing moving everyone into this building and where our plans are for some of those facilities. So that's my 2 questions. Again, the Extension Services Committee is February 20th, and I will be attending if anyone has any concerns about WVU Extension in the school system. So that's my 3 things. Now you have an MPO one, don't you, Mike?
Yes. The MPO, I was tickled to be able to host the meeting again last Thursday. Hopefully continue doing that. Next meeting will be in March. But we had our election of officers, and I wound up being elected chairman of the MPO for my 3rd go around. And then Joe Statler's the vice chair incoming, and then Patty Lewis was the treasurer, and then of course our executive director Bill Austin is the secretary. We've got a couple things coming down the pike, but one of the things that was interesting was we'll be doing a downtown, we will be working with consultants and all that on the downtown study of traffic and different things and just figure out what can we do, what can't we do, those types of things. But there's some, probably our mission is going to be to make sure that we continue on the projects we've already got movement on. And one of them's a roundabout at the Collins Ferry Road and up in that area. So those types of things is what we're going to try to stay focused and keeping moving forward along with planning ahead. So there'll be some other interesting things coming down from the March meeting too. So and right now, I will turn the gavel back over to our president. Drop you right in the middle.
Right, do not fly and plan on being somewhere at any point. So I had conversation, didn't waste the time on the way back from the airport this afternoon to call. I called Delegate Statler and was on him on the same exact thing about the flexibility and how it's going to work as far as funding. I heard Nancy speaking to this. It's a very big concern of ours that we as a school system, if they're going to dump money into early education, let the educators make those decisions with how that money should best be spent, and that's what I pushed on to Joe. And he said he thought it was going to be that way. It's going to be so much money per 1,000 kids. So then that'll give us a little bit of a leeway, and that might just be on the House side. I have not read 432, which I think is the Senate's version of that. So I haven't had a chance to read their version, but I think it'll come back. So I don't have anything to say besides Celtics didn't do very good last night. So.
Just for clarification, and I also had that conversation with Delegate Statler as well, but I think the hitch that Nancy is referring to is the language there may be some flexibility for us to do something different with the dollars, but the requirement that we physically have that person present in the classroom, whether it's an interventionist or whether it's an ECAT, is really where it becomes laborious for us. Our current model allows us to use interventionists in ways that we deem effective for us. So similar to what Mrs. Haggerty was talking about in relation to having an interventionist pop in and out of classrooms, pull kids out and work with them. The legislation as it's currently written wouldn't permit us to do that with the people that we hire with the money that the state would give us for these positions. They would say you can hire an interventionist, but that interventionist needs to be in that first, second, and third grade classroom on a continual basis as a second individual in the classroom to help reduce the teacher to student ratio. So whether it would be an ECAT or whether it be an interventionist, that might be our discretion, but they would physically have to be in the classroom as a second person, as opposed to what we currently have in that model. And so I know that's Speaker Hanshaw has been very definitive and demonstrative about that being something that he really felt was important as part of this. So again, we'll continue to do that. I will certainly reach out on the Senate side and have that conversation with those folks and express to them our interest in having that more flexibility in relation to what they're planning for. But with that said, could I then invite our board members to stand in front of our board table here so that we can get our board photo in celebration of National School Board Association Appreciation Month.
Or do you want to do it next
I would
meeting?
rather do it next time.
I would rather have it done now
Yeah, I
simply
don't really
because
care
we
what I
need to
look
get
like.
this thing pushed out.
Yeah, I did.
January, it's over after January. We don't meet again until February, so.
My global entry, I come off a long overseas flight and walked in and took my picture. It was just a mess. I don't care what I look
We
like.
were prettier last meeting, that's all.
They can Photoshop it.
Right.
Just put a tuxedo
My
on.
pants aren't too dirty.
Take a Sharpie and draw a tie on you. Just do the
Well,
headshot, huh?
I'm really concerned about
Just do the headshot.
Well, I still think they don't understand what they do.
And I don't know how we explain
Yeah, not only jeans, the ones my kids call the homeless jeans.
Homeless jeans.
what they said, your jeans make you look like you're homeless.
Why is this?
It's my mother's curse. We always close our eyes.
Thank you, board members. Thank you for entertaining me, Mr. Knight.
Because my question is, I'm wondering, since we have a specific model that works, are we going to have President Lytle or the superintendent go to a meeting of House Education or House Senate? Because I'm sure a lot of these counties have been unable to maybe procure the same level of interventionists we have, or have been able to think outside the box and afford to be able to do this. So I think we're going to have to make an end run for ourselves.
Right.
Is my thing. I mean, and I don't think anyone has any ill intent. I just don't know that very many counties. Are there any other counties that do this that you're aware of? Anybody?
Not to the level
Not
that
to
we
our
do.
level.
Not to the level that we do.
And I would just hate to, for us to, because a student gets pulled out in the hall for more individual work, to have to lose that. I don't know that being in the classroom setting with another individual, if you need more independent instruction, is going to work if everybody else is in there. I mean, I'm just not sure, because this has been a process to get to this point.
It's putting them in the classroom, not outside the classroom. We
Correct.
want somewhere where they can actually be comfortable about asking questions to and be an individual, so.
That's correct.
So, I don't know. I mean, I think that maybe we might have to advocate for our own model ourselves, not to take anything away from anyone else. So I just would hate to get through the legislative session and no accommodation has been made for this type of a model. And as we all know, this session just
Is a flurry.
house on fire. I mean, it's fast, 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 and it's over before you know it, and things have gone through.
I'm trying to think when it's coming out of House Education. I'm thinking
It's
tomorrow.
did finance pass it back to House
I
Education?
think it comes out, I think it's tomorrow.
Okay, because I know it had passed out of House Ed and had gone to finance. I wasn't sure where it was after I don't know if finance put
Well,
it back to House Ed or not.
The Senate's is 35 million, 70 million, 100 million. The House's is gonna be 100 million day one, was the difference in the finance of it. Because of the state implementation, which why lose the kids? But
Well, we
I'll
just
get
don't
back
need to
on
go
the phone, whatever.
backwards. We just don't need to go backwards, and if it's people going down there to go to a hearing, because, as we all know, a lot of these bills have not been vetted to the public the way sometimes they may have been in the past.
I think another point to consider, and actually Mr. DeSantis made me think of it today, when he was looking at some things on the state website as far as employment vacancies. Was the number you used 200? There was 200 service personnel vacancies. And I believe Mrs. Carradine just pointed out to me last week that for the first time in I don't know how long.
2 years.
2 years. First time in 2 years we have actually filled every one of our 8 positions, or all service positions, right?
Yeah, for substitutes.
For
Yes.
substitutes. I mean,
Vacancies.
vacancies that we have. We have filled them all. First time in 2 years that that's happened for us, which, I mean, we constantly hear that it's very difficult to get people to fill these positions. We have expressed that to our legislators, and I think they have acknowledged that they understand that even though they say you have to have an ECAT in every classroom, grades 1, 2, and 3, that's going to be
109 positions.
109 positions for us that we would have to hire. 100.
2,500 across the state. I forget what the number was. It was
Well,
ridiculous.
for us, it would be.
Well, it'd be 109 for us. We calculated it. We looked the other day. So, I mean, that's 109. We haven't been able to fill our positions for 2 years. Now we're going to be asked to fill 100 and add 109 more service positions, whether they're funded or not. we'd still have to fill those positions. We have much better record hiring interventionists because we tend to deal with retired people who are experts in their field, they're retired. They don't want full-time positions. And so they love the model that we currently have in place where it gives them the flexibility to not be a full-time employee. It doesn't impact their retirement benefits. And we get the benefit of what they can offer our kids, and it has been very successful for us. So I think just looking at how that all plays out, I don't think anybody is going to argue that putting more people in our classrooms is the right thing to do. But I think as Mrs. Walker and Mr. Lytle have pointed out, it would be very beneficial for our school system to have the flexibility to take those dollars and use them in a way that we see would benefit us and our children the most.
I don't know how anyone can argue that with saying we could have a certified teacher that has reading specialists compared to having someone that's had an education that gets them to the point where they can be a service.
And are
helper
going
in
to
the
need
classroom.
training. I mean, those ECATs are not going to walk in there ready to teach everybody reading. They're not going to have all those strategies in place until they're trained for reading and mathematics, which is the goal of all of this, to have everybody ready at the third grade level. And then, of course, we continually have the challenge of students that move into our system, move out of other schools, moved out of a homeschool environment, they come in third grade. And they've not had some of the supports pre-K to 2 that the other students have, and they need individual attention for certain aspects that they may not have gotten, or they've just moved here. I mean, I think a lot of places in the state don't have the transient population that we have. You know, just the nature of where we are.
I would be curious, not the answer tonight, but what has changed, do you think, that now we've filled those 8 positions? I don't need an answer tonight, but I mean, is there some
Oh,
sort
I
of...
can give you the answer tonight. We are constantly hiring substitute aides. We never stop.
Well, I know that, but I mean, why...
And we finally gotten to the point where we have enough substitutes willing to work to cover the jobs when we have absences.
Yeah, but I mean, is there a reason why we couldn't do that 2 years ago versus... I mean, I don't mean something that we were doing. Do you think something in society has changed that has helped us along with that? That, like I said, just food for thought as you're going through your daily...
We've really amped up the list. It's just getting enough applicants. Last year, we barely had any applicants, and now we do have a lot of applicants for our substitute
So
positions.
do you think that we've maybe turned the curve, putting COVID back further? I think maybe that has something... I mean, I'm just thinking that we're still, a lot of businesses are wanting to hire people, and nobody's showing up for work. So that's why I
Right.
was wondering if it was something we could pass on to society. Here's what we were doing to help fill these places.
Well, and I think too, we are diligent with following up with people who aren't working and aren't accepting jobs. So it is.
So you're policing the substitute list.
Yes.
That's pretty much, so now they know they gotta work,
Yes.
I guess. Or need to show up.
I wanted to make one more point, and it's pretty much pushing Nancy's point. We need, as a system, we need to talk about the fact that if everyone goes to one system, everyone gets one extra ECAT in the classroom, and the system doesn't work, why wouldn't they let us be, as we always have been, the ones that do try different things and are successful at it? So I think we need to speak to that with our legislation. Just say, listen, we've been successful. We're willing to add more help and more, because everyone needs that, but I think that's important, and that's something I'm gonna push, is let us do what we do and give us some additional funding and let us be flexible. So let's work on that. I mean, it's crunch time, actually, board members. If you wanna talk to them, now is actually the time, because it's coming out.
Well, don't penalize us, because as we all know,
Correct.
the best intentions do not always work in legislation, and sometimes they backtrack and then say, okay, now you can do this. But we've got continuity with staffing for those positions. We have people that are comfortable doing it. We have a variety of resources that the system has grown, if you will. And I hate to have a gap in that, because people will think, well, maybe I should do something else, you know, I'll do this, or I'll volunteer there, or, you know, I'll move somewhere else. I think that some of those interventionist positions tie people to the area that are interested in being here. And if that anchor is gone, they may opt to do something else. And it would be a great disservice to the students they've worked with for a long time.
I think just one thing to recognize, I don't think there's anything that is in the legislation that would prohibit us from continuing to do what we have been doing. And, you know, hiring interventionists and doing, there's nothing that would prohibit us from stopping that. The concern I think that we all have is that the additional dollars would not benefit our students, because if we would choose to want to use those dollars to hire more interventionists because we found it to be effective, that's what would be prohibitive for us. It wouldn't stop us from doing what we're currently doing, but we think there's a better way to do it, to provide the service. And if you're going to put those dollars out to help your literacy program, then it would be beneficial to let us make that decision as to how we would like to use that additional personnel. So I think that's really what we'd be asking for, is just the flexibility with the additional dollars for personnel. And I don't, there's nothing that would prohibit us from doing what we're doing currently.
Well, except the fact that we're going to have trouble to find funding to do that.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of the, you know, the
Easter
COVID
funding.
relief money and all these other things that we've been able to amp up the interventionist list and numbers with is gonna be gone. And, I mean, it's just like when, Mike, you were asking about why do you think I think a lot of the supports that a lot of families had are gone. So we have a new crop of people looking for employment in different areas that they may not have looked in the past. And so, you know, as everyone's back out there, it's really changed things. So, you know, because we added, I mean, we had the list last time, how many interventionists we had based on that COVID funding.
Absolutely. We have 40 right now, and we have increased. We've always supported it in the county by about 400,000. Well, we've doubled that support because of the ESSER funding. And I'd love to hear what we're saying about the middle school, because with that funding, and we call them transition teachers at the middle school just to differentiate them, but they've made a significant difference there at those middle schools. And I think you're going to hear when you ask, what do these middle schools what do they need? They're going to say they need those teachers, and they'd like to see that extended in the other grades. So you saw that in the 6th grade, and that has made a real impact, because those 6th graders need that support. And we were, I think, astute enough to understand that needed to happen there. We were able to use our funding that way. And we did that in the 9th grade as well, and doubled the interventions at the elementary level. So next year, it's going to be very difficult, in my opinion, to not have funding to support the needs of all these students. So I think that places us in a very difficult situation.
Well, because we're still going to have these 6th graders, these 9th graders.
Absolutely.
Not all of the COVID backslide, if you will, were these pre-K to 2 students that we're trying to get on level for grade 3. So we're constantly working as we go up through the grades to get everybody back where they need to be and surpass that number. So if we have to pull those supports back, I think it's really gonna be detrimental I mean, I understand why they're focusing on pre-K to 3.
Certainly.
And I think it's admirable, and there's nothing
I agree.
wrong with that, except that we've put some of those monies to focus in those other grades that need assistance. So. All right, I've preached enough. I need to stop. Oh.
Superintendent, policies.
All right. Thank you. Our first policy this evening is Policy 2371, Hope Scholarship. This is the first time you are seeing this policy. So Jennifer, what's this all about?
So this policy is developed to reflect the requirements of House Bill 2013, which went into effect a while ago, but because there was a legal challenge to it, we did not present this. It's a brand-new policy. So we didn't want to have a policy on the books not knowing the outcome of what that would be. So this policy, there are no options in it. It just sets forth the district requirements and the family requirements to request the Hope Scholarship and what the district's required to provide.
Any board member questions? Straightforward. Okay, Superintendent, moving on.
Okay, Policy B, this is Policy 8340, Letters of Reference. Again, this is the first time that you've seen this. I think this is a pretty simple policy adjustment, but Jennifer, would you let them know what we're changing here?
This is just a grammatical correction, changes the word charge to charges in a sentence so that it makes sense. So.
Any questions from the board? Superintendent, moving on.
And our third new policy for you to look at, or new for you to see, is Policy 8405.01, Indoor Air Quality. And again, this is the first time that you've seen these changes. So again, Jennifer, would you let the board know what changes we're making here?
Sure, this does have significant changes to this policy. It's reflecting the amendments that were made to West Virginia Board of Education Policy 6202 regarding the procedure that the counties are required to follow when you get a complaint for indoor air quality. The only option in this policy is to identify who the designated district official is, and we have filled that in there in the second paragraph.
Any questions? Superintendent, moving on.
All right, we'll get those cleaned up and bring those back to you at our next board meeting for your first reading. So we'll move down to Policy 6800, System of Accounting. We reviewed this with you at our last meeting. This is for first reading. So the superintendent recommends that the board approve Policy 6800, System of Accounting, for first reading as presented in your executive content.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Comments? Hearing none, all in favor of 6800 System of Accounting going out for first reading signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Superintendent.
Right. Our next policy to look at this evening is Policy 7450, Property Inventory. Again, you saw this at our last meeting. We have cleaned that up for you. Superintendent recommends that the board approve Policy 7450, Property Inventory, for first reading as presented this evening.
Need a motion?
So moved.
I
Or
get
second.
Nancy is the second, and Jennifer as a first.
Whenever I am.
Any questions from the board? Comments? Hearing none, all in favor of Policy 7450, Property Inventory going out for first reading, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Okay. Superintendent?
Our last policy to deal with this evening is Policy 7455, Accounting System for Capital Assets. Again, you saw this at our last meeting. This is for first reading. Superintendent recommends that the board approve 7455 accounting system for capital assets as presented to you this evening.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Board members, any questions or comments on the policy? Hearing none, all in favor of policy 7455, accounting system for capital assets, going out for first reading, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Superintendent, personnel.
Right. I don't have any changes to our original personnel list that you have in your executive content, so I will recommend that the board approve the personnel list as presented this evening.
Need a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay. You got, Dan is the motion. Comments, questions?
I'm glad Ed Fronapple's coming back.
Just thinking the same thing when I read through it. I did get to see him in the parking lot for a second. Thank him. What a asset for our children. So, all right. Any comments or questions? I don't think I already asked that. So any good? Okay, all in favor of personnel list as presented, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Superintendent.
Right, and then we do have our personnel list addendum. Again, I have no changes on that document for you this evening. So again, I will recommend that the board approve the personnel list addendum as presented to you this evening.
Need a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, any questions, comments, board members? Hearing none, all in favor of the personnel list addendum as presented, signify by aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Superintendent, next board meeting.
Yeah, just before that, I always like to reference personnel and really just where we stand, especially from the professional side of things, because, again, not that we're slighting the service side, but the service moves around quite a bit, so we get a lot of motion there. But I wanted to let the board know what we currently have posted, and then really compare that to what you see in the state. So we have 3 high school positions currently posted. Bob told me there were 75 currently posted in the state. We don't have any middle school positions posted as opposed to 58 currently posted across the state. And in elementary school, we have 3 professional teaching positions posted in comparison to 76 that are posted throughout the state. So we're doing pretty good right now. And I thank both of our personnel folks for the work they do to get us where we are. Those departments work real hard to fill these positions. So thank you both for that. And with that, board members.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Where are we on bus drivers? Because I know we
Jennifer?
have a lot of well, there's always movement in bus drivers, so how are we?
So we don't currently have Jason and Tony driving every day.
Oh, good.
And we did just, the last meeting, we hired some unassigned drivers. And we have a new class that just started this week of drivers. So we're in a much better place than we were. Of course, we always need more. We have a number of people out on leaves of absence, but we are doing much better than we were probably this time last month.
So some of our professional supervisors at the bus garage are actually able to
Our
Do their
mechanics
jobs.
are actually mechanics, and our 2 supervisors, as of last Monday, for the first time this year, are not driving buses every day.
that has been
That is amazing.
taken a
It's
toll
taken a
on
toll.
the whole transportation system.
Yes.
So I appreciate that.
Sounds like we need some bus parts too, so we might really be in good shape.
Yeah. And, Mr. President, if you'll indulge me just for a second, since you brought up the bus situation, we have had some questions come up. We've had a couple of weather situations that we deal with. We have a really small area of the county that borders the Preston County line, the Summer School Road area, where we look at the rest of the county and we might have some wet roads, but they certainly do not constitute delaying the entire county for the school system. And this week, we did specifically post a delay for several bus routes. I think it was about a half a dozen buses. It amounted to about 400 students at about half a dozen schools. And I do realize that that's not the most convenient thing in the world to do, but we just feel like that delaying the whole school system impacts many, many more families than half a dozen routes. And so, I mean, we're expecting some weather to come in this evening. That area is going to be impacted by that. So it is, you know, in all likelihood, there could be some more routes that get canceled tomorrow. I just want to reassure parents and remind them that should we cancel a bus route because of weather or things of that nature, that those students are excused from school. It is not counted as an absence. We would love to have them there. We hope that you can find a way to get them there, but it does not impact their attendance negatively because they are coded that the bus did not run, and that does not work against them for attendance. But I anticipate that we'll see more of that because of just the sheer size of that area that we're dealing with. And it does get hit pretty hard from a weather standpoint right there.
It's snowing on the mountain and it's dry down on Greenbag Road. That's just
Correct.
how it is.
Right, so I just wanted to mention that since Mrs. Walker brought up the buses. But, Mr. President?
Next board member, or yeah, that next board meeting is Valentine's Day.
Yep. Sorry, not making any cookies.
It's gonna be lovely. Bring some chocolate hearts. So,
Where did these come from? Just for ask.
They're for you all first.
we are adjourned.